the same stream ID?
I'll check. Let me see if.
Oh shit. I think he's taking over the link.
Maybe. Well, you think it switched it?
Yeah. Look like yes. Done.
Okay. Yeah, it may have. All right. Do I need to go to?
I think in the studio you might have to. You can have an idea of the previous stream, and I can stream on the same one. But if you can get it. But,
Do you need me to do something in YouTube?
Right now we are back live but another link, so we can continue like that. Or
yeah, we could just push the new link out.
sorry guys.
I don't know how. It's okay. I don't know how we're going to be able to associate it with the old link.
Yeah, we have live now here. Let's see. It's showing me twice though. It's showing me as
it's fixed. I don't know why, but effectively the scroll is back in 2 seconds. Okay.
All right, let me.
Same link or different link?
Different link.
Okay. I'll.
If you can give me an access later to the YouTube, if someone can, it would be great. So like that, I will be able to restart it.
I'm sorry.
If one day, if later we can talk about giving me the access to the YouTube.
Yeah, I did. I went to YouTube. I see us. We look good.
What I mean is in the back end of YouTube, you can get a special stream ID by video. So like that, I could have reused the same link, but
right.
Since I'm not sure I will be able to do it now or not. I don't think so. Sadly.
Right,
So
I'm not sure.
What is the new link?
The new link is this here. Where do you want me to share it?
Slack's good. Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I'm putting it in general.
I'm gonna tweet this out too. The new link.
Okay.
The new link.
Sorry, guys.
It was too good to be true.
It's fine. It's nice.
Daniel, what happened is just my laptop decided that I was a bit using too much. Yeah. And yeah, the app crash. Sorry for that.
It's all good. Copy. It's a good thing about not having a board and revenue and this isn't like a stock market disaster or something.
I bought stock in this company, and I figured I'm only listening to their board meeting thing.
Yeah.
And it was just I'm listening to these idiots talk. I'm like, what the hell did I invest in? They just weren't that smart. And of course, I lost a lot of money. It wasn't technical problems they had. They just sounded like idiots.
You can't really fix that.
No.
Well, you can reorg the whole place. All right. And then you posted it in Slack, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool. I think we're good. Are we live yet?
Yeah, we're live.
Okay. Anyway, I'm not sure. I guess I'll just resume roughly where I was at. Long story short is there's a simple way to change the fees on Varium to be 10 times more than Vericoin, which is basically perfectly analogous with the 10 times supply parity and everything that we, the economic context that the pairing is in. So, so we're looking to implement that. However, it would mean, because fees will be cheaper, it means that old clients will reject transactions with a lower fee than what they have in the older Varium. So we're looking to get the release out this month, or sorry, June. We're not quite in June yet. And it would include a time point in the future at which the fees drop, and that would come around almost 3 months from now. So we basically give people about 2 months to upgrade, roughly, and then so that 90% of the network, you never get everybody, but you get the vast majority, switched over to the lower fee version, which will also be the 0.19. I think it's going to end up being now, because of all the work that Mderasse has done to bring in all the updated Bitcoin development into Varium, which is awesome, as well as the new user interface. Looks like we're going to get together, and the fee change, and then the change, like I said, will happen about 3 months from now. And if you have an old wallet, then it's basically going to go out of sync with the network, because it's going to have different rules for transaction processing. So if you have an old wallet and you don't upgrade in this 2-month period, you'll lose connection to the network for some period of time, and then it'll just be as simple as downloading the new wallet and upgrading. We don't think this is a controversial update. We're still keeping the fees greater than Vericoin. We're just reducing how much greater they are, because we're kind of out of the training wheels phase of Varium and Vericoin and moving into the sort of Vereconomy phase with the binary chain and so on.
What kind of effect does that have on like mining rewards?
So mining rewards are going to drop significantly once the inflation rate gets cut. It depends. I can't say exactly what it's going to be, because it depends on the difficulty. But it's going to be near 10 times decrease in the rewards in about 80 days. So at this point, the rewards are going to drop significantly. And like in Bitcoin, either people stop mining, or the value goes up to try and compensate the revenue versus cost relationship. And we're betting on, obviously, the latter. But that'll be up to the market. The fees will be reduced significantly as well. But at the same time, Varium is one of the most efficient electricity-wise mining algorithms that's out there. I don't know if it is the most efficient. It's possible that it is, in terms of actual hashing. I mean, there's other algorithms that you use space, a hard disk space and things like. Obviously, those use less electricity. But if it's an actual hashing algorithm, it's definitely one of the most efficient in terms of electricity. But I don't know if it is the most efficient. So the cost of mining Varium is inherently lower, and you can use very inexpensive devices. So we think
Good.
So we think that this is going to work itself out in the market, basically.
And have you seen the video? There's a YouTuber named iMineBlocks, and he's created it's a really affordable device. It's a Raspberry Pi. I think he's selling it for $45, $50. It includes all the cables and everything you need to get set up. And when he sends that out, I guess by default, it's mining Varium. So that's, to me, an indication that, someone that's done this research and put it all together feels like this might be one of the more practical coins to mine.
Yeah.
Someone did a review on it, and he didn't have the best things to say specific about Varium in it. And I wrote him and said, listen, maybe you should get one of the developers or one of the more experienced miners on your channel, and they can discuss some of these concerns that you had. And I don't think the concerns were really anything other than he maybe just doesn't quite understand the nuances. But either way, the fact that this popular YouTuber put out a product and by default it's Varium, I think speaks some volumes in terms of where the efficiency aspect, if nothing else, that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm like also excited about unifying things into the Ver economy, because I think because we have two coins, people immediately assume that each coin is significantly lacking in some aspect, but actually each coin is really novel in its own right and has its own auto scaling in the case of Varium, has its own security protocol in terms of its proof of stake time implementation in Vericoin. Standalone, they're really unique, like efficient, beneficial, easily accessible coins in all the different ways that they need to be. And like you said, like someone selling a single board device with Varium on it is a perfect example of that. So I think, unifying into the Ver economy is going to help people understand better the depth that this project has, and more so appreciate the technologies. And one of the key components of that is going to be the binary chain white paper, or it might end up being the Ver economy white paper. Exactly how we title it and frame it is a work in progress. But this paper also, which I'm working on and will collaborate with writing on with others in the community, is going to make clear all the technologies at play here and the interplay between them as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that paper's crucial obviously our community is familiar with things, but I think we need to get something with a little bit more, with your scientific background and, your experience with writing these types of papers. I think we need something like that to take it from, I don't want to say theory, but, basically putting it down so that people can evaluate it technically a little bit more serious, maybe. Does that make sense?
100%, yeah. So one of the points that I'll make about this, one of the figures that I'm making for the binary chain white paper is, if you calculate the probability of being able to attack one chain, let's say, we can do that, with some assumptions, and let's say like if depending on the distribution of the hash rate in Varium, I'm just making up numbers right now. I actually have to run the numbers over like the last year to do this calculation for the paper. But let's say there's like a 2 in 10 chance that a large pool or large miner could potentially attack the network. This is not a real number. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't know what it is, but off the top of my head. But if you also then bridge in the auxiliary mining from Varium into Vericoin, and let's say that the Vericoin network has a 2 in 10 chance of a huge staker being able to attack. Very simply, you take those two probabilities, 0.2, 0.2, and you multiply them together. And that's the probability of someone being able to overtake co-mined or staked chain via auxiliary mining. So if you have consensus inputs from two chains, the probability is 0.2 times 0.2, which is 0.04. So you go from a 20% chance in each chain down to like a 4% chance in the unification of the two technologies. So this is like a simple example of how we can really quantitatively stand out from the pack in a number of ways regarding our technology.
Interesting. Okay. So were there any other talking points you guys wanted to get into before I go to some of the questions?
I would just like to add something. As you saw lately, we're also adding a lot of other features around the coin, such as Veritip for some coins on Twitter to your friends and stuff like that. I think it's important that we also construct stuff around the coin. And I would also like to add something about the white papers that we are writing, that EffectstoCause is writing. I think one thing that is really important also is to, yes, have the stuff that explain exactly how we do the binary chain, how we do everything, but we have also to find a way to translate it in easy way to understand for some people.
Mm-hmm.
I know that my wife is actually looking in Vericoin, and she was asking me some question about how it works and stuff like that. And so I think it's important that we are able to communicate with people on the different level of knowledge around the cryptocurrency. And
yeah, we've struggled with this in the past, and I'm still wondering about how to handle this. So on the ones, it could be that we actually. So with the post white paper, we actually tried to walk that fine line, and honestly, I think we failed.
My belief, Doug, is if you go with your true, especially now with some of the things that you mentioned in a couple of the last live chats, that some potential opportunities with how you may be able to merge your scientific background with this. I would go as to the extreme as you can. Do it as if you're writing a scientific paper that's going to be submitted to Harvard, Oxford, whatever. All right. Don't worry about that level of, okay, well, this is going to be over everyone's heads. Go full on scientific with it. Then you let me, Michael, and a few other people that, I understand the big concepts of blockchain. Okay. But I don't understand all the technical, and I don't know if I want to. I'm intrigued by it, but I want to know like the purpose and the why, and the passion I have is not because I'm into code. My passion is because I believe it brings freedom to people. So I want to maintain that level of understanding with it.
Yeah.
And then, so if you go on that level, and I've got enough of a technical background where I can read it and go, okay, wait a minute. This is like, if I've got a good talent of being empathetic with people. That's part of my job of marketing. I can think about it and go, no one's going to understand this. So and that's when I can get with you, and you have a great job. You do an amazing job of being able to step outside of the science mind and then explain it to me. And then that way I can then put it into a way that maybe the general public can understand. So I don't want to say 2 white papers, but I've seen other projects do this where you have a very technical paper, and then I think they call it a light paper. So you have your white paper and then a light paper. And the light paper is more just for the mainstream audience to get the general rundown of what it is.
I think that's the way to do it. Yeah, I think so.
Don't try to blend it. Don't compromise. Do one full on scientific, and then we'll have a second one that is just more laid back.
So it's interesting too, because normally in the science field, you're in a niche field and you're communicating largely to that niche field. And you assume that they have some level of knowledge of background in that field. But in blockchain technology, that's actually not the case. Even the scientific version of the blockchain paper is more difficult to communicate correctly because it's so interdisciplinary. So in an ideal world, the technical paper will have all the math and technical details it needs, but also be be accessible to an interdisciplinary, technically inclined audience. And then, but because it has to be interdisciplinary, I think it does make it. So if we do that, if we do the technical paper correct, I think it does make it so that the light paper, like you suggested, will be easier to write because we've already, to some extent, generalized it for an interdisciplinary audience. Now we just need to like get rid of jargon and too much math or whatever.
It's not easy. I mean, I've been struggling with, I mean, not to say struggling, but since 2016, when I decided I want to take this project and try to get it to the masses.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when I was looking back for that bare economy stuff, and then I was also looking for some UI interfaces that I think we had played with a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through some of this stuff, and some of the things I found that I had worked on in 2016, I revisited, and I was like, this isn't bad. It's actually because now that I've been in it and a little bit like, but that study that I was doing, all that research I was doing at the early stages of this,
Yeah.
It's still valid. I guess what I'm getting at is
right.
It's still conceptually all still strong, and as maybe even more so now with everything happening with, money just being printed like, out of thin air.
It also, I'm starting to get the feeling too that the market is technologically maybe even catching up to us a little bit in a way, meaning not in a bad way, in a good way, where what we're offering is now more understandable over time to the market. Yeah. Because people already know what blockchain is. They already know all the different kinds of blockchain. And now, they come and see, and if they can be presented well with what we're doing, it'll be obvious like how unique of an approach it is, I think.
Yeah, the difference is I think a lot of projects are starting to see these potentials. The difference is we've been doing it now for a while, and but there's still going to need to be a push soon. So the tip bot too. You want to talk about the tip bot because I think that's a pretty important thing to talk about.
Go for it, Mderasse.
Okay, so basically during the last week, I put in production 2 tip bots, one on the Slack. The name on the Slack is very tip from very tip. Yeah. Just very tips and help, and it will send you the help. And basically permit user to send tips to each other for thanks for help, for just fun if they want to have fun with it. And we also have a bot on Telegram and Twitter. So the name of the Twitter is very coin tip. I forgot the name. And yeah, my computer is slow, so if someone can check for me because I don't have to make the.
Well, yeah, we'll put it. I just wanted to make sure we got it mentioned. We'll get it out. To me, these are the types of use cases that we really need to start seeing because we're I think on a really good trajectory right now in terms of granted the last however many months has been kind of lullish, but these last few I think now things are starting to come together and it's getting really exciting. One of the questions, we talk about being exciting, one of the questions was with all this progress that we have, when is it feasible to think about a potential Android wallet?
Okay, so that was one of the questions on the YouTube. So I will be honest with you guys. 2 days ago, I think I sent a message to the buildings in the morning, early, like it was 1 or 2 a.m.
Yeah, we were up late.
And say, hey, dude, I'm trying to build the wallet right now on the Android platform. I will also be honest, it didn't work. I know why it didn't work. I know what we have to do to make it work. It will not be in the next Valium release. But I'm pretty sure after we put out the Verium and the Vericoin wallet, I will be able to release pretty fast the possibility to launch Android Verium wallet and Android Vericoin wallet. It's it's just it's not so much time consuming to do it. It's just that first I want to do a release. Also, my goal is after we release the Verium and the Vericoin wallet, is to be able also to produce way more often release. I mean, right now we are at what, 3-4 years between the two releases. I'm more thinking of like 6 months or even lower. We have to see.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair for anyone to put a time on it, but I also understand the question. My personal, I mean, again, my whole thing is use cases. I've got a lot of ideas for marketing, and almost everyone hinges on the fact that smartphone use is almost mandatory. Not quite, but in a lot of cases, it's mandatory. So I can understand why that question was asked, but at the same time, we're doing things on this pace that is, I don't want to say slow. I don't know if slow and steady is the right word, but this project has never done anything with this idea of, oh, this other project did this, we now need to catch them. And I even said back in 2017, when all these other projects were just spending money like crazy because everyone else was, they were all chasing each other and they were all running towards the edge of a cliff, in my mind. And a lot of them are done now, they're gone. And we've just kind of gone in our own way, our own pace, making sure that what's put out is, you know, to most extent, it's nothing's been, things may not always work perfectly, but nothing's ever been put out where you're like, oh crap, like that was a mistake, you know, that where someone was gonna like, I mean, the hacks that have happened on exchanges. So I think I'd rather be thinking things through and being patient versus trying to do things strictly from a marketing, be buzzworthy type of approach. So I wouldn't put a date on it, but I think the bottom line is we are a lot closer now to having an Android wallet than we've ever been. And if we keep this pace of development up, then it will be sooner than later.
About that Android wallet, I have a few ideas to put around, like just scan your friend QR code wallet address with your phone, and if you have also the wallet, it will pop up the wallet on your phone, and you can just say, "Hey, thanks for the restaurant. Here's some few Vericoin." I think that could be something cool to use between friends for pay stuff.
Absolutely.
The other thing is Verium on Android. The potential is really, really awesome. So, for instance, like one of the future binary chain applications is that we're working on is the mining shares application, and this application will be both on chain and off chain depending on the need, and it'll be like a decentralized mining pool, for instance, optional, and but like for instance, like if we had the Android Verium wallet and we had the mining share functionality, you could get frequent rewards, you know, from your Android phone, and you could even have you know, some like a decentralized pool incentive system where you scan someone's QR code and you start mining and so on and so forth, like what Mderasse was saying. So we can apply that to mining because of the algorithm. So I mean, the potential is huge. And then of course Vericoin, especially when upgraded to the new core version, it doesn't use much CPU. It does need to have a certain record of the blockchain, but it all doesn't need to be in memory in the core versions. So it becomes much more compatible with a lighter device. But in any case, I think Mderasse actually pushing the core update to 1.19 and beyond is also getting us much closer to Android, which is awesome. And I think this is the right way to do it. As many birds with as few stones. And then you're just not. One thing that I've learned over the years of programming is, and this applies to a lot of things, but especially to programming, I think, you want to do things more in a smart way than anything. Because I've spent on this project, on science, on whatever other project, I've spent hours and hours and hours doing something in a way that I realize after the fact I should have actually done it in a completely different way. And then if I had done it in the completely different way, I'd actually be 10 times further ahead right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So, but actually, I think one of the awesome things what we have going right now is we have an accelerated pace of development, but also being done in a really smart way, largely due to Mderasse's skills. But I think fundamentally we've been tethered to this approach, and I think it's the long-term winning approach, despite there being some serious lulls at times.
Yeah, there's a quote from I think it was Abraham Lincoln. I'm laughing because of those memes, that I've seen lately. But I think Abraham Lincoln said something like, "Give me 3 hours to cut down the tree, and I'll spend the first hour sharpening my axe." And I really believe that too. We live in this society now with a lot of the younger generations, like, oh, I got to go hustle, I got to go work, and so you just want to just start doing something, when really you need to hold back and go, wait a minute, before I even do this, why am I doing it? Like, what's the plan? What's the outcome? Because a lot of people just want to go and be busy, when really you might be better off not being busy, but thinking it through and determining, do you even want to put all the effort to do this in the first place? So yeah, I think it's the right approach.
I think also now we have a nice balance to it. Like we've had a smart, strategic approach all along, but we've been lacking some development skills, which Mderasse has brought to the table as well as others. And so I think we have a nice balance right now, and I want to try and keep this balance going forward.
Okay, I'll get into some of the questions. This is from Colty Boy. He says the binary chain's last hopeful ETA was around the Bitcoin halving, which we know is gone and past. Now that we are 2 weeks past the hopeful ETA, are we anywhere closer than we were when the hopeful ETA was announced in mid-2019? I think we've kind of answered this already, but you want to maybe get a little bit more?
Just say yes. We're definitely closer.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have some. We have some prerequisites that we have to meet before we get there in terms of the development process. And timelines are hard, but we're also to the point now where timelines are more predictable. We have a compiling wallet and so on, which we didn't for a long time when we were porting. So yeah, I mean, I think I think the distinction here, I agree. I think Mderasse is right. We should have more frequent updates, and it's going to be a lot easier to do that now because, again, we have a compiling wallet and so forth. All this rebuilding is largely over with. But at the same time, it's not like a software company that releases like a new feature that allows you to instead of thumbs up people or something. And it's more. It has to maintain a certain security level that's more paramount than even an identity being stolen, because we're trying to make digital value here. So we can't just we can't rush anything. I think we need to have a good pace, as good a pace as we can, but not at the expense of security. So, and there's many things you can do that like silly things. Like you spend 99% of the time doing all this coding correctly, and then you forget to set false to automatically locking the wallet when you release it or something. And then boom, everyone's coins are exposed. Potentially one variable incorrectly assigned, and everyone's coins are potentially hackable, and things like this. So there's a lot of nuance to it that, we have to keep track of, which I think gives us the leeway to be flexible with the timelines, but we can definitely improve always on our efficiency and our pace, I think, as long as security is not at expense.
Okay, the next question might be a little, I don't know if the right word is offensive, but it says,
dude, I've heard so much stuff.
Do the current developers know how to implement the binary chain? Is this something that is believed to be achievable?
Yeah, it's actually easy.
Yeah.
But it's more so the prerequisites prior to implementing it that's hard. But auxiliary mining, which is primarily what the first key component of the binary chain is a well understood technology and mechanism these days of sharing consensus. We're doing it in a new way because we're joining proof of stake and proof of work. I don't know that anyone has actually done that yet still. But in reality, proof of stake,
not within the same protocol. I mean, you might have
you might have two different coins that decide
right.
to tether onto each other or something, two different projects or something.
Right.
But staking is also sort of like pseudo mining. So it's not. That's actually, everyone thinks that it's the hard part. It's not actually. Other stuff is the hard part. And
I think, and I still think, I don't think most people, including me to some extent, understand the full potential of binary chain. You have some things that we've talked about in terms of some of that added security that you mentioned earlier, the ability to maybe, do a exchange, but converting your Varium to Vericoin.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that we've touched on is that idea of the data layer,
Mm-hmm.
and then just the amount of applications, because we don't even know, it's all going to be based on creativity,
Mm-hmm.
what people are going to come up with. But that data layer on top is really what's going to open up things to,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when I'm hoping the aha moment comes,
Mm-hmm.
where people go, "Holy, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know that was even possible." And so I'm just.
So that, to that, I actually think that you're right. Like, so this is why we ultimately need the paper, because there's so many things that you can connect into this argument, but to pick and choose. So like the data bridge, as I'm calling it, but basically it's a temporary database that is decentralized. All the nodes will have access to it, but and all the nodes will be able to curate it, but it's not part of the consensus mechanism. It's basically just temporary data storage.
Right.
So it doesn't need to be consensus verified. It just needs to be temporarily available. And then whatever data needs to be finalized, whatever data needs to be, verified, then that data would go onto one or both chains, and so on and so forth. But the beauty of this approach is that all existing applications work in the way that this data bridge would work. Mm-hmm. It's essentially just a database. There's
no exactly that, and it's almost like that is the Netscape moment potentially, where it made internet browsing something that was doable. I mean, and so I think
Cool.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be that layer of ease of use on a development level. And again, we don't know everything that's going to come from it, and it's not up for us. We don't. That's the beauty of this. We don't need to make an agreement with such and such company. They want to use it, they can use it. And we don't know who's going to come up with what ideas and who's going to want to use it. But the fact is, it's going to be available, and that's where the potential is massive. Okay, let's go.
I will be using
Yeah.
it. I will try to draw stuff based on it for sure. But I think the very economy wallet will be one of the main steps, I guess. I don't know if you agree with me, EffectstoCause, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything with what we can control, we need to get that done to the best ability that we can. But from the actual applications and use cases, I feel like that's when our community will grow. So again, our primary focus is, and I've been telling people for a long time, all this technology talk is important, but it's the protocol that really is. So when one of the questions was like, why should I invest? Like, what makes Veracoin? So why will Veracoin succeed in the long term? Why should someone invest in this project today? If you're looking at things like how many transactions per second, does it do this feature that this coin, does it have, like, I don't know, just name your buzzword of the month, right? I think that people should be looking at the actual protocol itself and how this is developed as a whole system and evaluating.
I have a great analogy for this.
Okay, please.
It just came to me while you're saying that. And especially for those people who are fans or have been fans of Steve Jobs. So when Apple first launched, obviously they were huge. Similarly, when Veracoin first launched, we became very big, very fast, almost too big, too fast. And it was very overwhelming. And then the MinPal, the exchange was hacked, blah, 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 long story. But it kind of forced us, almost like when Steve Jobs, I think this is a cool metaphor, when Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company and they ran like Pepsi CEO, ran the company, and they kind of did things the normal way that companies are run, even though it was an innovative, unique technology company. He was kicked out of his own company. He then continued working, but created a new company called Next, which created an operating system for its specialized computers that was based on Unix, which was really innovative at the time to create a consumer computer based on Unix. And long story short is Apple ended up wanting Steve Jobs to come back, and Next became OS 10, which was so Next, the Unix-based operating system that was developed at Next, became the foundation of iOS, the modern Mac OS, and iPad, and all these other technologies that spawned out of it. The App Store, touch computing, all these things that spawned out of the phones, spawned out of it. I mean, we're not at this scale, but I think in terms of the metaphor, it makes sense where sort of the exchange hack forced us to kind of circle our wagons, design things, and enabled us in a way to design things from the ground up in a new approach, think through everything, kind of go through that next period where, it doesn't seem like much is happening. It's not really working, but we're developing this really great foundation. And then with the Vereconomy, the goal is, with the Vereconomy wallet, with the binary chain, we've now built this foundation, and then
Yeah.
boom, we can grow from there.
Awesome. It's good. Yeah, that would be great. Uh, all right, and then we'll do one last question, and we'll wrap it up, I guess. Okay, we got over these. Someone just asked about fighting. I don't think any of us can answer for him. We haven't. I haven't seen him around too much. I know he was really busy. This was before, everything happened with. What was it? Nerded? Is that what it's called? Or no. It was the Coin Vault 1, rather. Coin Vault 1.
Yeah, the pool, I think, as far as I know.
Yeah, but I know he was really busy, but I haven't heard from him recently. I don't know if you guys have talked with him in a couple.
I chatted with him on Slack a couple of weeks ago, but I pinged him again today about some stuff. Yeah, I know that he's been struggling to figure out how to handle the situation with Coin Vault 1 and whatnot, and hopefully he hangs around and
absolutely. I mean, he brings a lot of value to the project, and he's done a lot. And I got to hang out with him when we did the summer Veracoin meetups, which market was dead and very few people actually showed up. But still, I mean, I got to be around him. He's a good guy, and he's very bright. And hopefully we hear from him soon. And then the last question was just about what maybe would need to be done to get Veracoin on the Ledger wallet.
Mderasse, do you know anything about that? People have investigated it before.
I don't. I wanted to take a look, and I decided to focus on the Valium release. I will look at it if you want. I heard that some people already start working.
Yeah, I think the priority is getting the core release out, but I think again, it's one of these things where by doing the core release, it makes whatever the ledger process is, I don't know the detail, probably a hell of a lot easier.
Correct, exactly.
So I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay. I think from the moment we release the new Bitcoin Valium. As soon as we release the Valium wallet, I think we'll be on a more up-to-date RPC protocol and everything, and things will be easier.
Yeah, right. All this infrastructure that's built for Bitcoin is modular for us at that point. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Again, we could go on. There is a question here. Someone's asking, with all respect, why does Dash and Pivx clones win against Varium and Veracoin in trades and popularity? There's a lot of ways to answer that question. You have to first understand that it's not necessarily what the best technology is. It's also marketing to some extent. And I think with Dash, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they've got a mechanism built into their protocol that helps fund their project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so from one angle, Dash has a lot of money to play with from a marketing standpoint that we don't have. Mm-hmm. And even if we had something like that, it's still important that, like, some of the marketing that I'm seeing happening now, like what Daniel's doing and a few other people are doing, that's the way, honestly, it needs to be quite honest. So I don't think it's necessarily, I know there's another project, I won't say its name, it's a proof of stake coin. I loved how they did things in terms of marketing, and their branding was on top. I downloaded the wallet and it was a nightmare. And then it's, again, proof of stake coin. I bought some coins to put it in the wallet, and then I noticed that, like, the transaction fees were 0.2 of the coin. Now, we had Varium, and we were saying Varium was purposely high transaction fees with 0.2. And yet that was their standard transaction fee for a proof of stake coin. So I was like, makes no sense. So there's projects out there that it's buzzed. I mean, people are investing on buzzwords or getting involved in a project because of hype, quite honestly. I mean,
Yeah, and I think also like the clones are kind of an interesting phenomenon, and this includes some of the Bitcoin forks because they actually are leeching off of an existing network effect. They're essentially trying to rob projects. I mean, it's whatever, it's survival of the fittest, so to speak, but they're basically trying to rob projects of a portion of their network effect by kind of cloning, or especially not necessarily a code clone, like you might want to start with a certain code base and then make your own modifications, new protocol, whatever, what have you. But if you kind of market yourself as sort of like the better Dash or the better Bitcoin or the better this, that, the other, then really what you're doing is trying to rob users. And often you're successful with the minority of the users, So the majority will stay with the original project, but some minority will flee. But that minority is the same minority that will flee your project when the next cool kid comes down the block or whatever.
right.
So, yeah, so it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to talk bad about those other two projects specific. I mean, it was just the two he mentioned in the question. Like, Pivx has got some interesting aspects to it. It's a security or privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And Dash, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything bad. There are some projects I'll come out and say it's actual shit. But those two, I'm not gonna say anything. But yeah, I just think to answer the question, it's just there's more projects than that are more popular than Bearcoin and Barium. I would just say this: don't get deterred by the popularity contest game. Like, keep doing what we do and understand the protocol of what this is about, and understand that it's truly decentralized. And where that gets you in the long run is probably more important than, I got in an argument with somebody. He's like, yeah, but I'm like, these other projects, they have like founders and they have like these people at the top that are, they're going to take the lion's share of the profits he's like, yeah, but that's a good thing because you got those people, like they're going to be motivated, to make the project worth a lot of money. And I'm like, I get that argument to some extent, but that's not what this is about, in my opinion. I don't think that fundamentally what we're trying to do here is change an existing system.
Well, I think too, like, number one, that's the way, businesses are run, right? So if you're thinking about it in the context of a business, then that makes sense. But it's not necessarily a business, especially if you're trying to make a currency that is not owned by a small group of people, formally or informally owned by a small group of people. And then the other thing that's interesting about that is actually currencies are owned by governments, right? Which is effectively a small group of people. So people think that that's the way it should be, whether it's in the context of a business or in the context of money. It should be in control. It should be controlled by some small group of people that give themselves the authority. And that's the whole point of cryptocurrency, is to take that infrastructure of authoritarian hierarchy that's remnant of monarchies and so on from the Middle Ages, strip it away from the money system and let the market just work naturally.
I think the key word is the word invest. And so when people say, I'm going to invest in this project. So if you take that mentality that there are top level people making decisions and running the thing, yeah, you're investing in their ability to take the money that you put into the project and it's going to return some value. And so when you use the term invest, to me, it almost, I know it's a matter of semantics, but to some extent, when someone says, I want to invest in this project, I don't think you understand crypto and for what it should be, because you're not investing, you're participating in it. Mm-hmm. You're buying Vericoin, or you're buying Varium so that you have it, so you can use it or whatever. Yeah, I understand, realistically, you're going to hold some and hope it goes up in value, but you're not investing it. When you put money into Vericoin, it doesn't go to a board of directors who now say, okay, cool, we've got money. Now we must try to make this money worth more money. There's no one touching it. You're buying it from someone else who sold it. That's it. It's not going into a company, stakeholders that have decisions on how we're going to take that money that you quote invested and do something with it. No one sees it. Doug doesn't see it. I don't see. No one sees it. Like, it's not investing. You're buying. You're buying. That's it. So don't use the term invest. You're not investing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, that's my little soapbox. All right. Should we end this one then?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I would like to finish by thanking the community for the huge amount of work they are doing lately. And actually, I think they are our best marketing. They are the root of Verium, Vericoin. And it's by working together that we will make that the coin go up, go famous, go.
Yeah. If there are no stakers and no miners, there is no Vericoin and there is no Verium.
Correct.
The reality.
And the best way to market this, and right now I would say, I wouldn't say we're at that stage to really go full on aggressive marketing. I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not going to be pushing it as hard as I will be when some things are, maybe a little bit more refined on the technical side of things.
Sure.
I want that ease of use. So I do a little radio show on Sundays. This is a fun little thing I do. And I have a little contest. And if someone is able to answer correctly, they win 200 Vericoin, right? And that's the other thing I was going to say. So the best way to market this is to actually, I don't say give it away, but actually use it. Like, I'm finding a way to go, okay, how can I get more Vericoin in people's hands in a way that makes my radio show a little bit more interesting? And right now, it's 4 cents a Vericoin, so I'm giving away $8.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, that's the best way to market this, is just one-on-one interactions. It's not getting, we did the TV commercial. It didn't, honestly, maybe it had an effect. I don't know, but it did. Put it this way, it may have an effect on price for a moment or two, but
I think what we got out of that TV commercial was some good footage for the website and stuff.
Yeah. But my point is, that a TV commercial on national TV didn't get thousands of new users. What's going to get thousands of new users is if we have 1,000 people in our community now, and between now and next week, those 1,000 people make a point to say, hey, I want to get one person this next week familiar with Vericoin. Well, now we've doubled the visibility.
Let's use the COVID approach. Every person gets 2 people to start a wall.
You don't even have to joke. That is the true exponential growth. Yeah. And I actually use that same chart to tell someone that I'm like, this is how the same way COVID came in and just boom, is the same way Bitcoin can go, or any crypto can just go boom overnight, because it takes the whole other.
All you need is each user to
tell
two or three other people that they should do this thing, and they start doing it, and that's it.
The difference is, I need to tell someone. I shouldn't even tell someone they should do it. I should make it easy.
This is cool. We should calculate an R naught for marketing. what is our estimated R naught for marketing, like our quote unquote infection
Okay,
rate?
yeah, but Doug, let's stick with the virus approach then.
Yeah.
The reason why COVID exponentially grew as fast as it did is because it was very easy to attach, right? It was very easy
Oh,
to spread. So you know this more than anybody. Same thing. If
yeah.
I tell someone on my radio show, even let's say I do the question, someone gets the answer right, I'm going to send them 200 Vericoin. If I then have to spend 2 hours walking them through how to download the wallet, and now they got a hiccup with that, and then that's not a virus that's going to spread.
You're right.
It needs to be download this, you win, I'm going to give you 200 Vericoin. For what? Because I want to. Because I want you to have it. It doesn't have to be 200, it could be 20. But the point is, if it's easy, and that's where once the technology catches up, then we can really get it. And now people will want to do it because it's easy. So it's a combination of those two things, but we're not quite there yet. When we are, that's when the marketing is going to go boom, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll wrap this up.
We are way over time. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're always gonna. This is the project that does. We do things on our own time frame and our own pace, but maybe what I'll try to do is chop these up into segments, so they're a bunch of shorter videos rather than this big long one. All right.
And last stuff. Daniel is doing a giveaway on his Twitter.
Okay.
So if some people want to take a look.
What's his Twitter handle? So we can give him a shout out. So if you're not following him, they can follow. What's his Twitter handle again?
Yeah. Wait. Again, my laptop is.
Okay, I'll see if I pull it up. Someone messaged me, maybe. Nope.
Is Viscera 3.
Yeah, Vishera 310. VISHERA 310. So if you're not following him, go ahead and follow him. A chance to maybe win some Vericoin if you don't have any yet. All right, everyone. Appreciate you all tuning in. We're going to continue to try to do these every 3-4 weeks or so. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or if you have any things you want to, maybe topics you want to cover or see us cover, or you want to be in on one of these even, message us and we'll see what we can do to get you on. If you got something worth sharing, we'd love to have you on the episode to share it.
Yeah, since we're using this new system, is there a limit, Mderasse, for the number of people that can come on here? Like, well, there's probably a practical limit, but
no,
like,
it's unlimited. No limit.
Okay.
The limit is the size of my screen. The size of my screen. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, so again, maybe next time, I know a few people wanted to be on this. It's just a matter of time as well. So, okay. You got to turn it off. I don't have the controls this time.
Wait, I have a hand and slide, so.
All right.
Okay, so thank you guys, and bye.
Bye.
Have a nice and easy day.